Hey everyone, welcome to the very first video on this channel. If you enjoy it, it would mean the world if you hit like, leave a comment, or subscribe. Okay, let's start. The reflection stayed. Outside, the shutters of all the shops were closed. Everything looked as if it were bathed in moonlight. Pink petals drifted here and there, and ivy crept along the building walls. A man wandered aimlessly around. It didn't look like he was searching for anyone. He spoke to himself. This was the only place where I could truly live out my childhood. In the city, I was mostly kept locked away. I used to come here during my vacations when I was a child, the man said. Just then, a voice echoes from somewhere. You never really stopped coming here. He either didn't hear it or perhaps didn't want to. He walked inside a tunnel where moss clung to the walls like a painting, and even inside, rays of sunlight filtered through. Water pooled on the ground, with leaves floating on top. He walked along the tracks, which had rusted over and were bound by fountain grass. Walking along, he arrived at an empty station. An unfamiliar fragrance of metal and earth hung in the air, which he deeply inhaled. Just then his eyes fell upon a black and white cat. Is that you? He said, stepping toward it, but the cat ran away. She's gone. Her name is Rani. I've been seeing her since childhood. My grandmother raised her, he said. Just then, in the water pooled at his feet, his own reflection screams, that isn't her at all. It's impossible for a cat to live for this many years. Looking up at those tangled wires, his gaze shifted to the dark, thundering clouds, and the first drop of rain fell onto his face. Good thing I haven't bathed yet. Now I can bathe in the rain just like I used to. Just then, through those falling raindrops, his reflection says, you didn't always get to bathe in the rain. You used to fall sick. On his way back, he stopped by a park. I always used to play here with my friends. How strange. I didn't make as many good memories in the city during the entire year as I did in this town. His gaze fell upon an old torn teddy bear that lay in the mud, getting drenched. He picked it up, set it on top of the slide, and placed a broken umbrella over it. I wish you had friends too, and you could play with them just like I used to play in my childhood, he said to the teddy bear. He began to walk away, but his own voice echoes back from the teddy bear as his reflection whispers, you wish someone had played with it, but this was your teddy bear. They tore it apart, and they beat you for trying to take it back. Everything began to gleam under the downpour. People have many reasons for leaving a place, but the biggest reason is they're growing up. People do grow up here, but as soon as they grow up, they leave this place. And those who are already grown up either leave this town or they leave this world, the man said to himself as he walked along. This time his reflection, which is forming in the empty buses, the washed out roads, and the rain slicked poles, says nothing. It only listens to his words intently. Walking along, he stopped near a house and said, this is the house where that girl used to live. We never spoke a word out loud. All our conversations happened through our eyes. I didn't arrive here on time, and she left this place too. Forgive me, our story remained incomplete, he said, looking toward that window. Time didn't wait for either of you, his reflection whispers. Night fell, and the crescent moon woke up, filling the wet sky with its light. The wet ground began to reflect the glow from the street lamps, as if a golden path had been painted everywhere. The man peeked out at all of this from his bedroom window, but outside, sitting, his reflection watched him back. Looking out from his window, the man said, yes, this place is no longer the same. I can come here, but I cannot bring back that lively spirit. A place is defined by its people. If my friends and cousins were still here, we would have been up on the roof since evening. In fact, everyone in the town used to gather on their roofs by evening. What I am feeling right now, I cannot put into words. They're gone now. Even so, when I remember them, I can't tell whether I'm smiling because they happened or grieving because they'll never happen again. Sitting outside next to that black and white cat, his reflection says to the cat, even if the good memories weigh more, the bad ones deserve to be remembered too. When will you understand this? Do you think I will ever be able to set him free? The cat blinked slowly. For the first time, the reflection smiles. Second story. Moved into a house with a cemetery. 6 weeks later, we left. When I was about 5 years old, we moved into an antebellum farmhouse in rural Alabama that had this old family cemetery in the backyard. The cemetery was surrounded by a decrepit wooden fence and had a dozen or so tombstones that looked like they were falling over. My bedroom was on the second floor, and my bunk bed gave me a perfect view of the cemetery out back. One day, while my father was at work, my mother took my sister and went to the grocery store. I was left alone in my bedroom upstairs. For context, this was the 80s, y'all. A while after they left, I heard my grandmother's voice call my name from the living room. My grandmother lived in the next state over, so I was surprised to hear her. I thought she must have come to check out our new house. I bolted downstairs to the living room, expecting to see her, but nobody was there. I peeked through the blinds to check the driveway, and there were no cars. I ran upstairs and continued playing with toys, not thinking much about what happened. A few nights later, I woke up in the middle of the night. When I opened my eyes, there was a silhouette of a person standing at the head of my bed. The silhouette was almost like a light blue version of the white noise on old TV sets, but I could see through it, if that makes any sense at all. I went to scream for my mom, but nothing came out. I tried over and over again, but my voice wouldn't work. All the while, the silhouetted figure stayed there. I don't remember what happened after that, and I never talked about it afterward. A couple of weeks after this experience, my parents packed up our things and we moved to a different house in the next town. My parents have passed away since then, and my sister was too young to remember anything. So now I'm stuck with these memories and a lot of questions. As an adult, I wondered if my parents had experienced anything and that is why they left so quickly. If there are any paranormal aficionados out here, any idea what the silhouetted figure could have been? What about my grandmother's voice calling my name when she wasn't there? What was that about? My mom is refusing to let me. When I was 8, a boy with freckles ran over to me during recess and said, I'm Sam, let's be friends. 2 days later, Lara joined us, orange pigtails and a soft voice. Then Charlie, glaring and kicking gravel, hand in hand with my mom. I liked his bright red hair. This is Charlie. I saw him playing alone, so I figured I'd bring him over. Mom never has a face in my memories, so I pretend she's smiling. Charlie grabbed a handful of dirt and threw it at Sam. That moment made us BFFs. Then, at 15, we finally cemented it. Drunk on wine coolers and spread out under darkness, clammy entangled legs and unsure kisses. A constellation of stars, we declared our love for each other, something more than friendship, something that set off butterflies wriggling in my chest. At 27, I was marrying my true love. Standing in front of a crystal mirror, I smoothed down my beautiful white gown that pulls at my feet. I feel like a princess, I whisper, bouncing on inexpensive glass slippers. Millicent, Adora, my fiance's maid, violently tugs my hair into a braid. After finishing, she lays my veil on top of my head. What did I tell you? Adora grips my chin, forcing me to look at her. I can't stop grinning, tears stinging my eyes. While I am happy, they are painful. Mistress Abigail's order was to make sure you do not cry until after the ceremony. Do you understand? I collapse into giggles as she drags me from the mirror, but I glimpse my bare feet sticking from my dress. Wait, something sharp fills me for a moment, like poison, freezing me in place. I stare down at my toes, but they're so dirty. I can see filth clinging to my toenails. I blink, my gut twisting. Where did my shoes? Mills, are you decent? A voice yells from outside. Sam pokes his head in, half dressed, tie hanging off his collar. 5 o'clock shadow. Hi, he winks at me before being yanked back. Samuel, what did I tell you? Another maid screeched from outside. Where's your suit? I twirl again, risking another look. My shoes are on my feet, perfect glass slippers. I roundhouse kick the air in my dress just to make sure. Adora twirls me around to face her. You ready, Millicent? I nod, nerves twisting as she pulls me from my room. Can I ask you a question? I whisper as we descend a staircase of diamonds. Adora doesn't look at me when we step out onto the beach. An arch of flowers and white chairs filled with shadows await us. I can feel the soft sand beneath my feet, but I'm wearing shoes. Of course, Adora hums. What is it? I choose my words very carefully, moving towards the love of my life. She stands in crystal, shallow water, sculpted in white, long blonde hair bleeding into the water. Abigail. My question unravels in my throat when I see her smile. Bathed in radiant light, Abigail is the sun. She is my son. We are gathered here today, a man begins, when I join the others at the altar. Charlie and Sam wear white suits. Lara and I wear matching dresses. Abigail stands in front of us. She grabs our hands separately as we speak our vows. Do you, Abigail Soren, take Millicent Reed, Charlie Simmons, Samuel Hollow, and Lara Atlas to be your lawfully wedded husbands and wives? The words spill from my lips before I can stop them. I do, Sam smiles. I do, Charlie nods. Lara's eyes fill with tears. The man smiles and turns to Abigail. And do you, Millie? The voice is like a knife cutting through me. Suddenly, reality splits apart. Sirens fill my ears. Men and women in black swamp me. A woman stumbles over to me with tear stained cheeks. She grabs me like she knows me, cradling my face. Millie, the woman sobs. Sweetie, it's your mom. It's going to be okay. I stagger back, words choking my throat. Millie, the woman's grip tightens. I've found you. I pull away, stumbling back into Sam. Look at me, she whispers. That girl, she jerks her head at Abigail. She took you away when you were 18. You told me the girl in your classes was crazy, and I didn't believe you. Her trembling hands flit through my hair, but her fingers tickle. No, I find my words, but they're suffocating. The woman slaps me, and I see red. Bright, intense red. The world jerks around, and the crystal shallows of the sea bleed into rough concrete. I'm not standing on a beach. I'm in the middle of nowhere. I stare down at my toes, my filthy, bloodied toes, chains cutting into my wrists. My dress is half of a torn curtain cruelly stapled to my flesh. I slowly run my hands over my head, but I feel nothing, only my scorched, rugged skin. My wedding ring is melded to my finger. If I didn't wear it, Abigail would. She would. A raw screech tore from me, my breath ripped from my lungs. I remember how painful the chains are slicing into me. I remember I'm not allowed to cry. I'm not allowed to cry. Millie, Mom, something inside me splinters. Oh God, my mom. Mom grasps hold of my shoulders, her nails digging in. Sweetie, her shuddery breaths tickle me. Where are the others? She demands. Your friends, Millie. I'm covered in blood and Mom's grip hurts. Red paints me like I am its canvas, staining and ingrained into my skin, into all of me. My gaze finds Sam, Lara, and Charlie still standing in halo light. I am standing on cruel concrete. While they join hands, walking away from me into the shallows, Mom jerks my head towards her. Where are they? The rain wasn't just falling, it was punishing the earth. The sky had turned a bruised, unnatural purple by the time I reached the gates of the old park. Seeking a brief moment of shelter from the sudden downpour, I walked inside and sat down on a bench for a few minutes to catch my breath, but the air felt heavy, suffocating. Even though the park looked completely deserted through the sheets of water, a violent shiver ran down my spine. My sixth sense was screaming at me. Someone was there. I couldn't see them, but I could feel a pair of unseen, malicious eyes locked onto me from the shadows of the trees. Terrified by the sudden, overwhelming dread, I bolted from the bench. That was when an old security guard stepped out of the gloom near the path. His eyes looked hollow and weary. He stared at me and shook his head. Don't go through there, he whispered, his voice heavy, like a warning from a father trying to protect his own child. There's trouble down that path. I'm telling you this for your own sake. Please, turn back. I should have listened. But panicked by the feeling of being watched and desperate to escape, I brushed past him. I took a sharp turn, trying to find a gap in the boundary wall to cross over to the main road. That was my first mistake. Into the void. The moment I stepped through the broken fence, the world altered. The familiar sounds of the city died out, replaced by the deafening roar of the storm. I looked back, but the park gates and the guard had vanished into a wall of absolute blackness. I was completely lost. The rain grew so thick it felt like a heavy curtain, reducing my vision to mere inches. It was pitch black, a suffocating, ink-like darkness. I stumbled onto a desolate, endless road. The air felt thick, charged with an oppressive, malicious energy. Then the shadows started to move. Figures emerged from the gloom. They didn't look quite human. As I hurried past them, they didn't speak, but their presence hit me like a physical wave. I felt an overwhelming sense of malice, disgust, and hunger radiating from them. Their eyes seemed to track me through the dark. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to run. The desolate station, two or three cars drifted past me like ghost ships, their headlights cutting through the rain but illuminating nothing but empty asphalt. I was completely alone, a solitary target on a dead street. Then, looming out of the darkness like a grim fortress, I saw it, a massive, decaying building with a faded sign that read Office of the Deputy Commissioner. Relief washed over me, but it was short-lived. The courtyard was completely deserted, drowning in shadows. Near the entrance stood a lone policeman, drenched in the rain, standing perfectly still. I approached him, my voice trembling over the sound of the thunder. Excuse me, which way to Malvia Nagar? Please, I'm lost. The policeman slowly turned his head. His expression was completely blank, his eyes wide and unblinking. When he spoke, his voice didn't sound right, it was flat, echoing and entirely devoid of human warmth. A suffocating, terrifying vibe washed over me. He pointed a stiff, pale finger down a dark, winding alleyway. That way, he whispered. The escape, I didn't argue. Every alarm bell in my head was ringing. I backed away slowly, never breaking eye contact, until I faded into the darkness of the alley he pointed toward. I ran. I didn't look back at the office, or the figures, or the shadows stretching out from the trees. My heart was hammering against my ribs, the cold rain blinding me as I sprinted through the labyrinth of empty, black roads. It felt like the city itself was trying to trap me, shifting its streets to keep me there forever. Somehow, by some miracle of pure survival instinct, the oppressive darkness finally began to thin. The heavy, suffocating weight in the air lifted. I broke through the fog and realized, with a gasp of pure relief, that I was finally on my street. I burst through my front door, locking it securely behind me, dripping wet and shivering. I glanced at the clock. Nearly 3 hours had passed. 3 agonizing hours trapped in a pocket of darkness that felt like a lifetime. I was safe, but as I look out my window at the pouring rain, I can still feel that cold, hollow gaze of the policeman. And I wonder if I ever go back to that park, will I ever find the real world again? My husband's strange superpower. When I was 13, Jake Thompson developed the ability to control minds. Jake Thompson, who called me a slut when I bled through my skirt all over my chair. Noah Sparrow, the varsity captain who slammed his girlfriend into lockers and dragged her around like a doll, could conjure fire with his fingertips. Sitting in class wearing a smug smirk, vicious orange flames licked across his fists. When my neighbor burned his family alive, I couldn't ignore it. When Noah ripped off his girlfriend's head during a tantrum and Jake forced three teachers to gouge out their own eyes, an emergency assembly was called for the female students. We had to take precautions and protect ourselves. Standing among my friends, trembling, I realized this wasn't a gift from God, despite what the churches insisted, labeling boys as the superior gender. The phenomenon became well known as afflictions were reported widespread across the country and affecting primarily 13-year-old boys. Eventually, it had a name: idiopathic hormonal genetic disorder. I grew up in a very different world. The laws changed overnight as society scrambled to adapt to the sudden rise of male dominance. Boys with powers became young celebrities. Politicians and podcast hosts all said the same thing. What do women have? Baby making? Ha! Try having the ability to fucking fly like my grandson. By the time he was 15, Jake Thompson was starring in Hollywood movies. By my junior year of high school, girls were ordered to wear shirts with sleeves. Then skirts were banned. Senior year, girls were barred from education beyond middle school. Apparently, education was distracting. I was told to find a man and settle down. I'd grown up surrounded by boys who abused their abilities, but my husband was different. He kept his power on the down low, only using it in dire situations. My stepfather hosted a cookout for his 50th birthday, and as usual, as a female, I was expected to work as a server. My sister in law, Annalise, hands me a light pink apron decorated with a bow. You're not serious. I bite back a laugh as I pin up my thick dark hair while Annalise ties the apron around my waist. That's when I notice she isn't wearing a hairnet. Long hair on women wasn't permitted at family or public events because of the female hygiene law. According to the government, all women were expected to be clean shaven, with their hair either tied back in a ponytail or cut to shoulder length. I plucked myself like a turkey before arriving. Annalise is quick to tuck strands of hair behind my ear, shaving the last stubborn bristles from my chin. I had another abortion, I whisper, while she's inches from my face, brows furrowed in concentration. Hmm? She plucks, and I have to bite back a squeak. Sweetie, didn't you just have an abortion? I pull her close, lowering my voice. I've been for 6 procedures, I tell her, my stomach flopping over. The doctor told me it keeps failing. Annalise's lip twitches. That's impossible. Cadence, my father in law orders from outside. Get out here. Now, we're waiting. Annalise smiles through gritted teeth. Coming, father. I hated my father in law, but I also have to maintain civility to avoid him flying off the handle. I serve him with a practiced smile, making sure to wear bright red lipstick and a short skirt, just like he instructed. Alex and Connor, my brothers in law, sit with him sipping wine. Alex had the ability to fly, Connor could teleport. Ben, the youngest sibling, also powerless at 21, kneels in front of a bowl of doggy chow. Being a woman already placed you near the bottom of the social hierarchy. Ben is half naked, covered in grime, hair a long mess trailing down his back. He glares down at the bowl of slop in front of him. When he was younger, he'd been made to wear a collar and leash and forced to bark on command. But nothing was worse than a powerless man. Cadence, my father in law's gaze rakes over me before settling on my stomach. A smile tugs at his lips. I'm looking forward to you birthing me a grandson. I smile politely. That's not something I'm planning right now. He nods, smirks. Well, you better be quick. He smacks me on the shoulder. You're 25 now. Remember your body clock. KD, my husband, Flo, comes running over, cheeks blooming red. Why is my wife serving? He hisses. Go inside and change into a dress. He grabs my hand, squeezing reassuringly. In a world full of men abusing their powers, I had found lightning in a bottle. Flo insists on me wearing a bright yellow summer dress. It's okay, babe. Flo shoots his father a glare. Right, Dad? He strides over to Ben and pulls him to unsteady feet. Ben barely responds. His absent gaze is glued to the buffet table piled high with cupcakes, a thin line of drool escaping his mouth. Flo gently pushes him. Dude, go and get something to eat. How was the clinic? Flo murmurs in my ear while we grab food. It failed again. Do you want me to come with you? He hums, gently rubbing my belly. I'll be moral support. I take him to my next appointment. The nurse discusses my options before turning to Flo. Can I speak to your wife privately? She asks him. I know it's technically not allowed, but Flo is, as always, understanding. He hugs me. Of course, he says. Good luck, babe. When he leaves, the nurse looks me dead in the eye. Cadence, she says. You have had one abortion 6 times, and that's impossible. Her lip curls. Privately, between us, what is your husband's ability? I smile, then I feel sick, then I want to gouge my fucking eyes out. It's healing. Me and my sister are sharing the top bunk. To start off, I tried texting my parents as to not alert whatever is in the room with me, but neither of them are answering. Now I don't know what to do. Me and my sister share a bunk bed together, but sometimes when my sister gets scared, she comes up to the top bunk with me. She used to just go into my parents' room, but they would get annoyed by the constant interruptions at night pretty quickly. Tonight wasn't any different. I was scrolling on my phone, reading Reddit posts, and getting ready to fall asleep when I hear a familiar voice from below me. Hey, can I get on the top bunk with you? I can't sleep. Sure, sure, come up here, I said, turning from the wall to face her as she climbed onto my bed. She snuggled in next to me and whispered something in a hushed voice. Something is in my bed, sissy. I'm scared. I looked away from my screen to see her beady eyes glistening at me. I huffed, knowing she was eventually going to make me go down with her and check. You always say that, and every time I check, there's never anything there. Aren't you getting too old for this? I'm only 9, she rebutted, as she crossed her arms in exaggerated anger. She then added, but this isn't like the other times. I actually felt it get into bed with me. I figured it was another one of her nightly terrors getting to her, so I started moving over her to get off the bed and finally put an end to this charade. Don't, my little sister whispered, yelled to me while having an ungodly grip on my arm. In that instant, I heard a groan and a shuffle from under the bed. I jumped back into my previous position on the bed, wide eyed. What the fuck was that? I whispered back to my little sister. Stop using swear words or I'll tell mom, she demanded back. I told you, I don't know what it is, but I felt it get into bed with me. See, I'm not just seeing things. I then told her to just lay down and I'll handle it. I didn't know why, but for some reason I decided that needed to actually see if something was down there or if her fear mongering suddenly rubbed off on me. So I decided to grab my phone, press record, and slowly shuffled my arm down to the bottom bunk. I did so until I felt my shoulder grind against the wall, signaling that's as far as it could reach. I kept my arm there for a good 20 seconds, praying that I wouldn't see anything and I could laugh this off with her later. I pulled my arm back through the crack and shuffled under the cover as to not wake my sister, as she seemed to doze off not long after I told her to lay down. What I saw on the recording made my jaw drop and heart stop. As the video was playing, it showed